Hello, my name's Jim Wadford, and I'm here this evening to talk with the class about the stages of conflict model. This is a model that I developed several years ago while I was working with the Cabarrus Baptist Association and dealing with churches who were in conflict. This model is a very simple model, and it talks about the stages that are applied in conflict. There are 5 stages that I see in the model. I'll be sharing briefly with you this evening what those stages are. The model looks something like this, and you can download it from your Canvas pages. Just go to the page information on the sidebar inside of Canvas, and you'll find there on one of the pages titled Stages of Conflict. So go there and download it. May want to stop the recording now, go download it, print it out so that you can have it to make comments in the margin of it and take some notes. The stages of conflict, there are really 5 stages, but there are 3 levels of conflict. The first level is a healthy level. That's where conflict is considered to be healthy. It is where people in their normal everyday life began to work and to deal with conflicts within life. The first stage is stage 1, and that stage has been identified as creative. It's a creative stage. Conflict can be very creative. They say that in transition, when you're in transition and you're in a neutral zone, in between the endings and the new beginnings, there is a time that things are very creative there, and people become creative. Well, it's also a time of conflict when you're very tense and things are intensified for the individual, that they're moving through a period of transition and psychologically trying to make the shift from the old way of doing things to a new way of doing things. So the first stage in conflict in a healthy level is that of creative. The way I define creative is having the ability or the power to create. Human beings are creative animals, the definition tells us. It's like creative writing. You've written a paper before, so you know that writing can be conflicting for you. In the same way, the creativity level can be that way. Under the creative level, the bottom row you see down here identifies the kind of person that is needed or the role of the person needed to work with the church or an individual or group of people that are in stage 1 conflict. And that is what I consider to be a composer. A composer is someone who writes the music for the orchestra to play. So at this stage, you need someone who can come in and help you to compose the scenario that you need to be able to solve the conflict and to make an advancement and move forward in your life. So a composer is the person needed there. The second stage of conflict is that of competitive. Competitive is defined within the dictionary as avoiding or determined by competition. Competitive games, in other words. Like competition, are inclined to compete a highly competitive teammate. In conflict, you see that same competitiveness coming out within the roles of those who are in the conflict together. 2 people get at odds with one another, and they can become competitive very quickly, especially if both of them are competitive-minded people and competitive-driven people. So the second stage, and this again is still in the healthy stage of conflict, is to be competitive. The type person that needs to come along beside the group that is in conflict and are competing with each other is a coach. They need someone who can step in and ask the right questions, can ask powerful, creative questions, questions that will help them to talk about it and discuss it and to look for ways, discover ways that they can resolve the conflict within their relationship. So stage one, again, is creative. Stage two in the healthy level is that of competitive. When we move into the next realm or the next level, we find that there's two more levels here, as you see, that are considered stressful levels. We've now moved from healthy levels to where we experience anxiety, and there is some pain that comes along with dealing with conflict in this level. The third stage that we want to talk about tonight is that of challenging. The third stage is challenging, to challenge another. And people come up against each other in this level. You begin to hear the language change for them. It's no longer what I want to do or what we can do. It's now you versus them language. Challenging means a demand for explanation or justification, a calling into question, a challenge to a theory, a sensory's call to the unknown party who is approaching for proper identification, a test of one's abilities or resources in a demanding undertaking. A career that offers a challenge is an example. And so we see in this third stage that parties that are in conflict there tend to be challenging each other, calling out to each other, sometimes mildly, but sometimes it can get more intense, the call that they give to each other. Type person that comes along to work in this place, in this church, is in conflict, is that of a consultant. It takes a consultant who can come in and spend time with the congregation, listening to the problems that they have, listening to the areas that they challenge each other in, listening for expectations from all groups and parties involved. The third stage is a challenging stage. Stage number 4 is known as the confrontational stage. And confrontation, what we mean by that is that to come face to face with. It's when you confront somebody, especially with defiance and hostility. I wish to confront my accuser in the court of law, one might say. To bring face to face with. The defendant was confronted with incontrovertible evidence of guilt. To come up against an encounter or to confront danger at every turn is the meaning of confrontational. It is confrontational when churches come together and they are fighting with one another. By this stage, by stage 4, we're in a very stressful time. The stress level is extremely high. Out of a stage of 1 to 10, probably at a 7 or 8 at this level. And at this level, parties are beginning to call each other out on the carpet, and they're beginning to question each other and their motives for what they are doing. And so it's at stage 4 that we have confrontation. And it's at this level that the church must call in an outsider who is a mediator, someone who can come in and mediate the situation and manage the conflict, help them to manage it. A mediator is someone who stands between the two groups and helps them to to see the advantages and disadvantages in both areas and going both ways. The third and the final level of conflict is that of a deadly level. And it's at this level or stage 5, that we find the combative level of conflict. It's at this stage where people are willing to give their lives and to sacrifice one another. They're eager to fight. They're very aggressive here at this level. That's what combative means. And at stage 5, we have to bring in someone from the outside. We have to bring in a monitor, a police officer, in other words, someone who can come in who has some power and some authority and who can make people get in line. The reason being they're ready to fight constantly and they're at battle with one another. In this model, the stages of conflict, I've tried to put together also a way for measuring some things. And one of the things is the outcomes at each stage. What are the outcomes at stage 1, where you have creative conflict? The outcome can be win-win. Both parties can win. Everyone can win at this point and at this level. At stage 2, at competitive stage of conflict, it tends to be win-lose. That is, one party is going to win because this has now become a competition, and we're competing to see who the winner is. And in that sense, there must be a loser. So in stage 2, we make it a win-lose situation. And in the church, that's not always the best place to be, because we won't really want to see a loser. The third stage of challenging, we come to the point that we have lose-win. That is, if we're challenging someone will lose, and at the expense of someone else winning within the conflict. At the confrontational stage, it is both lose-lose. Nobody wins when you're beginning to confront each other. And then at stage 5, which is the combative stage, that level is the level of destruction or destroying one another. And people at that level, the outcome is to let me destroy my opponent and the person that I may even love the most. Let me destroy them. The reason for this outcome is because the conflict is in a combative state. It's in a state of war and fighting. And so people can really get hurt at this level of conflict. Over on the left side of the model, you'll find there is the anxiety levels. How do you know how high the anxiety or the pain of the congregation is at each of these stages? Well, at stage 1, at the creative level, I've given a level of 1 to 2 points for that stage. And then moving up to the competitive stage, stage 2, the level tends to be 3 to 4 points. Stage 3, you move into 5 to 6 points, which is mid-range. At this point, again, you're getting very stressful levels of conflict. And then 7 and 8 are stage 4 conflicts, where the confrontation is getting heated. You'll have a 7 and 8. And then 9 and 10 is at the combative stage. In a 9 and 10, there's a no-win situation, and we will destroy you if you allow us to. I want you to just now take a couple of minutes and think about this model, look at it real carefully and study it. And then I want you to answer this question at the bottom. How would you rate the level of conflict in your organization at the present time on the basis on the scale of 1 to 10 to the left, where the anxiety levels are there? A level 1 anxiety being little or no conflict, and 10 being, I can't stand it here a minute longer. I've got to get out of here. 10 is that. I got to get out of here. So how would you rate the anxiety level and the conflict level within your church setting right now, or place of ministry right now? Take it just another minute and finish up rating the level. And then I want to close out this presentation by saying that I would like for you to go online and go to the discussion board tonight in Canvas and just share some some comments about the presentation and what you perceive as being something that you can carry away from here. I'll have several questions for you to respond to, and I ask that you please take some time, work through those questions, and discover what you can tonight about how to use this model within your present situation. Thank you for listening and sharing tonight, and I hope to talk with you soon.